Am I audible?
Uh, Audible, but some echo is coming. Probably multiple device, very closely spaced.
Is it better now?
Now it
Yes.
is.
Yes. Okay. So I think we can get started. Thank you all for joining. And good afternoon to
Yes,
all.
yes.
On behalf of Jadavpur University Alumni Association Singapore chapter, a very warm welcome to all of you, including the panelists. So before we jump to the main agenda for today's panel discussion, I just wanted to walk you through a quick background of who we are, what we do, and rather what we intend to do, and what are our regular touch points with our beloved university. So we are the Singapore chapter of Jadavpur Alumni Association. We are a registered society here under Singapore government. We started around November 2014. We took some gradual baby steps, and now we are almost 175 plus members. We all tie, we all have a common tie that with our alma mater, Jadavpur University, to anything to give back and kind of provide a networking platform. So basically, what we intend to, or rather, what is our mission and vision? So what we intend to do. The first and foremost thing is obviously to promote the JU brand, the welfare of JU brand across Southeast Asia, Singapore regions, to provide a platform for networking. So that's a predominant reason we are here. And also another very important thread to maintain a very close cooperation with our university and kind of a small initiative to give back something to the university and to the current students at any form or any shape. Among our initiatives, what we are currently partnering with the university, mainly we call this an Excel@AUR kind of Excel alumni university relationship. We are conducting kind of a series of lectures. I think this is the second of that sort. We had one lecture conducted specifically a pretty technical topic, AI and ML, sometime around August, and then during this pandemic scenario, kind of pace got a bit slowed down. So, but yeah, good that we are again back here again. We partnered LaunchX, I think during March, if I'm not wrong, with university. And apart from that, we do interact among ourselves here in Singapore community. We do organize some professional events, fireside chat, panel discussions, as well as some family get-togethers as well. This year it's being limited, but we are trying to see how soon we can be back to new normal. And taking a cue from there, as we are talking about the new normal, probably today's topic is very interesting. We thought that a lot of students are graduating this year, so we kind of try to get a sense what is going on in their mind, and thought that how from definitely some industry pioneers getting some sort of direction, some sort of assurances that how this anxieties can be tackled on, and what is in store for our future, specifically for those who are graduating in this 2021 or 2022. So having said that, I would like to hand over the session to our moderator, Sure, Mr. Bhattacharjee. She is a 2001 computer science graduate from our university. So yeah, over to you, Sure, Mr.
Thank you, Kano. Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Welcome, everyone. So first of all, it's an absolute honor for me to host this very charged up evening, I would say, with eminent alumni from various departments of JU. But of course, before I begin, a big shout out for all the organizers, without whose drive and commitment this evening wouldn't have been possible. So as Kano explained, this evening has been organized primarily because we felt that during these difficult times when the whole world is kind of grappling with the COVID and the impact of COVID, how can we help the students of JU? And we thought that perhaps we could derive inspiration and advice from our own alumni stalwarts in the industry, who have very kindly agreed to spare some time for us, as well as the students who are the rising stars, the third year student, final year students, even the fresh graduates, on how to prepare for this new normal that is emerging in the industry. So without much further ado, I'll quickly briefly introduce our panelists today, I'll keep it very brief because we have a section later on where we would like each of them to just go through their journey post-JU, share with us. So first of all, we have Mr. Arup Chakraborti, Electronics 1991, who's a technology evangelist and entrepreneur running Greenwave Solutions, an innovation-driven enterprise focused on IoT. Arudha, maybe you can just raise your hand to show. Yeah. Then we have Mr. Sauti Sen, Electrical 1993 batch, who runs his own firm, Bridge IT to Biz Consulting Services, providing enterprise application services and other innovative platforms for young entrepreneurs. Shotita, maybe you can just raise your hand just to show who you are. Yeah, thank you. We have Mr. Arnab Basu, who Electrical 1999, who is the managing partner for PwC in Eastern India and also leads the technology consulting for PwC in India. Have you seen Arnab?
I think Arnab Basu is just joining. He's facing some challenges. He'll be just joining back.
Okay, sure, no problem. And then we have Saibal Bhattacharjee, Production 2002, who's currently in a leadership role in software product marketing department of Adobe. And last, definitely the least, I'm your host for today evening, Shormisha Bhattacharya, Computer Science 2001 batch. I've been in the technology industry for almost 20 years now, working with various firms like Atrenta, Intera, Autodesk, HCL, and currently in a leadership role in a technology consulting firm called Delaware in Singapore. Okay, now since we have an overwhelming response, almost more than 250 participants is what I heard, I would like to set some ground rules first, please, quickly. So in the interest of time, I've structured the questions into broad topics, which we will go through later, and would request everyone to be mindful of the time, as we intend to close within 75 minutes. Also, apologies, we are unable to take online questions through video chat, hence we'll keep the mics muted for everyone, except for panelists and organizers as required. There'll be a 20-minute question-answer section towards the end, when Konov and I will be covering the questions received through Google Forms, as well as online questions, if they have not already been covered in the previous sections. And in case we are unable to address all the questions, we'll get back to the JU cell with clarifications from panelists over email. So moving quickly to the first section, as from the response received from the Google Forms, our listeners would like to hear from each of our panelists on your journey post-JU. Sorry? Okay. Yeah, Arnab, I think we wanted to see you put a face to your name.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, I've joined. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So we'll start with Shotita. Can you, we just wanted to hear a brief introduction about yourself and your journey post-JU. You're muted.
All panelists, I think you have to request you to unmute yourself. Shruti, though we can't hear you.
The panelists need to unmute themselves. We cannot unmute from here. Saibal, you are still unmuted. Yeah.
No, I think Shotita has unmuted himself, but still there is a issue.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for the glitch. I graduated in 1993 from Jadavpur, electrical engineering. That's quite a few years back. And I aspired to become an electrical engineer to the core. So I went for a master's at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and then even joined Siemens, for that matter, for a year and a half, only to discover something which was a software which could do everything, integrate enterprises. And that led me to Pricewaterhouse at that time, SAP practice, in 1996. As a team, I was one of the very first few who can be credited with winning and setting up an SAP offshore project for PwC at that time. And I moved on in my career to IBM, and when I moved on into 2017, I was the SAP partner and practice lead for IBM India. I now run a small firm, Bridge IT to Business As it says, it's to bridge IT with business, consulting services, providing enterprise application services. And we are also experimenting with setting up a small light platform for young entrepreneurs to build upon their ideas. What I would like to share something beyond work and things like that. I like time to be spent on creative mediums. I have 2 little children whom I do a lot of parenting, like all Bongs for that matter, or Indians for the matter. And I strive to make every day better than yesterday. Now, 3 takeaways from my journey so far is education is a basic qualification criteria. And it opens few doors, including higher education, jobs for that matter. So if you are studying in Jadavpur University, is just giving a head start over others, being a brand, but it will not stay for long. Your first job may not be the most encouraging experience, and I still recollect when I was in Siemens, I watched a movie named English August, which resonated very well with me at that time. And, you will always find that you do not expect it in that way. So the motto for me, take away from this is do what you like or like what you do. Now, the first 6 months in your career, no question is a stupid question. But post it, you are expected to know the intricacies of the job you are doing. So first 6 months of your first job are very, very critical, and you should discuss with your mentor, peers, to get along with it. So that is my short introduction about myself and what I did so far. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shotida. Arupda, can we have a brief introduction from you, please?
Yes, Sharmisha, thank you so much. And welcome everybody, especially the young fresh graduates and the 4th year and 3rd year students from Jadavpur. I passed out in 1991, so it's almost like Stone Age compared to where you are right now. And it's been a very, very exciting journey for me for the last 3 decades almost. But I still feel that my best days of my life were all in Jadavpur. I mean, I still live very close to Jadavpur in Calcutta. Whenever I get time, I go for an evening walk. I'm also associated with the university in a couple of initiatives. So I still maintain a very, very strong touch with the university. I'm really delighted today that the Singapore Alumni Association called me in, though I had very little touch point with them. In my career, I had a brief stint in Singapore, but not really, nothing very significant. So I started my career in HCL straight out of campus. I joined the HCL automation division. As Sauti was saying, that the first job is never really the benchmark or never really the only job which you should really carry forward throughout your life. So I joined HCL automation division, and we were selling something called EPABX. Okay, I don't know how many of you know what is EPABX. It's a telephone exchange. Okay, it's quite archaic and old at this point in time, dated. And then I moved to another HCL company, which was called HCL Comnet, and we were the very first employees to be taken from one company within HCL to form that company called Comnet. Now, though we were under the HCL umbrella, HCL Comnet was completely like a startup in 1994. I moved to Bombay from Calcutta, and I remember our first office was a garage kind of an office with one computer, 20 of us queuing in front of that computer to make a proposal. And during the Bombay rains, the office roof used to leak. Okay, so that was HCL Comnet. Today, if you look at HCL Comnet is a $2 billion enterprise. And they are perhaps they're renamed or rechristened called the Infrastructure Services Unit of HCL Technologies, and they're a $2 billion enterprise. So the learning for all of us, or at least for me, is that from a garage to a $2 billion enterprise is something very, very exciting. And when you look at as a starting point of your career, need not always get enamored by a big brand. A small startup or a small entrepreneurial venture can give you a big head start in your career, a very, very adventurous journey. I still remember HCL when we used to go to recruit in B schools, our poster or our the opening slide used to say, if you're looking for a job, don't join us. If you're looking for adventure, do join us. Okay, so look at a career which is full of thrills, full of fun, and full of rich chalk content. So I continued in HCL till about 2008, and then the entrepreneurial bug, struck me. I quit my job. I started Greenwave, and 2008, the big recession, hit us. 2007 to 2010, if you remember, it was the subprime crisis, and all the big banks in America collapsed. And as I was expecting some funding, the guy who was supposed to fund us our venture, he backed out. So we are left completely high and dry. Went back to industry again for a couple of years in Wipro Technology. Did some consulting for them, and in 2010, I again restarted Greenwave. Okay, so there is a little bit of a learning for all of us here, especially for the young students. So the subprime crisis or the big recession in 2007 was almost, I would say not almost, but something similar to what you're experiencing right now. In 2007-8, I remember companies issued appointments, they held back, they deferred the appointments. The job market was completely in doldrums. People who were graduating in that particular year or year after, they were very, very worried that what would be my job prospect. But look at the world today, or look at the world till about a year back from today. Everything was hunky-dory, right? Everything was, growing at a double-digit growth. India was clocking 8.5% GDP growth. So it's I think, the COVID-19 which has hit us is really bad, but it's momentary. It's going to pass. It's not going to be here for long, or not. It's not a permanent syndrome. So don't lose heart. And then what I did from 2010 to till date, I'm running a company called Greenwave. We do IIoT solutions for core industries, analytics, manufacturing analytics for core industries, and I'm enjoying the ride. Okay? But if you really want me to rank, in terms of thrill, excitement, fun, and what I like most, I will always rank number one as my JU days.
Thank you, Arupda. Arnab, can we hear from you, please?
Yes, you can. So, good afternoon. It's really a pleasure always to talk to anybody in campus. And third year, fourth year, probably the best days of our life in college. So I'm hoping that you're having a great run, though I can understand that you've not been in college for probably 7-8 months. And if you ask me, you're really missing out all the fun. So a bit about myself. I passed out of electrical in 1999. And then subsequently, I went on to IIM Calcutta and did my MBA from there and passed out of there in 2001. And from 2001, from campus, I joined PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I'm still with PwC. I'm still on my first job. I look after the technology. I'm based out of Kolkata, and like Arup, I'm quite close to the campus even now, and do go over to the campus sometimes. Still associated with the electrical alumni. So I think a few thoughts from my side. See, I haven't changed jobs, but I think what Shruti said about the first job, it obviously your education allows you to get into a good brand, and of course it opens a few initial doors. But then after that, it is entirely up to your enterprise and your sincerity and motivation and focus, which probably propels you across. I think one of the things which I have really enjoyed in my ride with PwC is that, keep asking for changes. Otherwise, after a while, at least for me, things get monotonous and boring. So don't be afraid to ask for a change. Be ready to take the plunge into something new. I have worked 20 years. I'm in my 20th year with the firm, but I've worked out of several offices, and both inside India and outside. And I think it all, as you become more and more broad, you become more of a global citizen, have I would say greater acceptability across clients, both Indian clients as well as MNC clients. And I think when they look at you as a consultant, one of the key things which they're looking for is, how do you build trust in a relationship, and how do you, sort of invest in the relationship. So I think those would be a few of my pointers that, don't be afraid of asking for a change. keep investing in the relationship, and finally, look for variety of experience. I personally think that the variety really adds flavor to the job. So that would be my initial thoughts. Back to you, Sharmishta.
Thank you so much, Arnab. Saibal?
Thank you, Shurmishtadi. Am I audible clearly?
Yes, clearly.
I apologize. As you would have it, there is a power cut in Delhi, so I am a little bit in the dark, but I'll soldier on. Hopefully the power will be back soon. So maybe there's a little bit of lack of light at my end. I apologize about that. It was great to hear from Arupda, Shotida, Arnabda. I think Arnabda, Shorabda, Shormishtadi, there was a little bit of overlap between your time and my time. I joined in 1998, so so it was great to connect with all of you again. So I graduated from JU production in 2002. And even at that time, just to give you a little bit of context of how I started my professional career, even at that time, there was a dot-com bubble burst. And if you would remember, a lot of companies were giving regret letters or deferred joinings. So for a lot of our seniors, they were hanging out even after graduating, and we were playing football in the ground till 8, 9. I remember those days. And then it hit us, because we were then the third-year students, appearing for interviews. And I remember we have always seen our seniors playing TT and then rushing to give an interview and then coming back and completing the game. And at the end of the day, everybody has gotten placed. So that's the culture that we had grown up with. And then in 2000, when we appeared, I remember TCS came, and we were expecting like as usual, they would be taking probably 100, 200, 300, 500 students. And that year they took 20 students across all batches, all departments combined. And I was one of the shortlisted candidates. I made it through to the last round, and I could not crack it. I had zero understanding of or knowledge of C programming. And some of the questions that they asked, I didn't know the answers to them. Simple questions like bubble sort, insertion sort, what's the difference, and things like that. And just to deal with the disappointment, I didn't have enough time, because next day Cognizant was coming on campus. And so I had one day to kind of do my preparations. And next day when Cognizant came, the same questions were asked by the panelists. And by that time, I had prepared the answers to those questions. And then that's how I entered Cognizant. There's nothing to hide here. So that's how we got placed, and I started my career with Cognizant in Kolkata. I joined the SAP practice that they were building as a developer. ABAP 4, Advanced Business Application Programming Language, was the programming language I still remember. But for my first 3 years of professional life, I would say most of it was spent in JU, because I would come back early from office and hit the grounds and still play football and hang around. So that continued for about 3 years. And then obviously I was trying for an MBA. I was appearing for CAT. I appeared for CAT a couple of times, couldn't crack it. And then in the third year, I cracked FMS and SPJAN and XLRI. I didn't crack any of the IIMs. And I took the opportunity to come to Delhi and FMS. In FMS, the biggest eye-opener for me was when you come out of a city and a protected environment, South Point School, Jadavpur, then Cognizant. You leave your comfort zone for the first time at the age of 27 years, and you suddenly are thrown into a pool where it's cutthroat, competitive, everybody is ambitious. And one of the things that I realized interacting in that environment was what set us, at least when I say us, I am taking a lot of pride in representing JU, is that we have an idea of what we know and we don't know. It was very surprising to see that a lot of people didn't know that they didn't know. So that also kind of gives you a sense of the background and depth and breadth that JU can inculcate in a person. From there, I did my internship with Microsoft, and after graduating, I came back to Cognizant Kolkata to work for the same team for 1 year. After that, within a year, me and my wife, Amrita, she was graduating from FMS, so we decided to move to Delhi because that was working out to be a common ground for us. So I joined a startup called Indus Valley Partners, which was a technology consulting firm, where I worked directly with the CEO and MD as a one-person sales, marketing, BD team. And those 2 years of being the single person in the team and not having anyone to delegate any work to made sure that I had to get my hands dirty and do everything myself. So from there, the opportunity to move to Adobe came, and I've been with Adobe for the last 11 years. I run product marketing worldwide for product portfolio. We run the P&L of that business from here. And the last 11 years has been a really, really enriching experience for me professionally. More so because of the exposure I have had in terms of interacting with customers, partners, and also employees and colleagues spread across the world: Germany, Japan, US, Singapore. And even on my business trips to Japan a couple of times, I did stop over in Singapore and met Shugotumda and the others. So I would say, the last few years have really allowed me to kind of maximize my potential and learning. And hopefully I will be able to share some of those insights and experiences with the third year, fourth year students in our discussions today.
Sure. Thanks, Saibal. So I was just trying to take notes and, just kind of summarize what we can take away from your experience. And from just, I think it will be quite interesting to see, like, within this few minutes, how you have shared some very words of wisdom with us, which I think the listeners can take back as well. So like from Arupda, like COVID is impermanent. So we should keep that in mind. It's just a change. From Shotida, like education opens doors, but job is where you really start learning. From Arnab, your first job is really the start of the exciting journey. So don't be afraid to ask for changes. And from Shoibal, get your hands dirty. I think these are my takeaways. I'm sure you can have your own takeaways. But in the interest of time, actually, initially I had thought that I'll again have another round of session going through each individually to understand how COVID is affecting your business, and then what are the measures being taken by your organization to combat those. But what I'm thinking is, because I have kind of organized the discussion into subsections, where I will go to each of you to lead those subsections. As part of that, I think the first thing maybe you can share with us is how COVID is affecting your business and how you're reacting to that. And then the first topic that we want to discuss moving on is that the thoughts that basically we had asked the participants to send in questions on what they would like to be discussed. And one of the common themes that we have seen is like impact of COVID on the job market. So that is something that maybe I can ask Arupda to share with us, and also like in your personal experience also, what are the measures being taken in your company to combat that?
Okay, so thanks, Shormisha. So first of all, let me first start with how did we sort of recalibrate our own organization to react to COVID, or to deal with COVID. First and foremost, till about February, like the government of India, we are in complete denial that there is something called COVID. Okay, so business was fine, everything was going fine. So my first learning is that, and the learning which I'd like to share with all the participants here, is that if there is a rumor, global rumor about some pandemic or some certain global phenomena which can adversely affect your business, do take a note of that and try to prepare yourself before the others are preparing, okay, or before the pandemic or the disaster actually hits you. So like the government of India, we completely ignored the wordings. And we are a startup. I mean, we are a 10-year young company where we do close to 22 crores per annum. And being a engineering company, a lot of our billing is sort of tail loaded towards the year ending, which is March. So 30% of our billing got stuck straight away because we couldn't ship because of the lockdown. So we were stuck with huge amount of inventory. More than the inventory, what really struck in terms of the employees is that they were all completely worried because the inventories are not moving. The lockdown is completely indefinite, uncertain, and whether this company, which is a startup, which is not like a TCS or a Cognizant or maybe a Sale or Jindal Steel, they're going to tide over the crisis. Whether we'll go down under or we can still swim out of it. So the first 3 months, and every time the Prime Minister used to come on TV, we used to really think that one more extension of lockdown, and we were really clueless. So the first thing we did is that we made sure that we were communicating every day all our employees on a Zoom call, like we are actually operating in the same office. So you never stopped communication. So the first thing we really adopted is that we kept our communication thread really strong with all the employees, all our partners, and all our customers also. Then the second thing which we did is that we are in two types of business. In one type of business, we create the solution, engineer the solution, manufacture it, and then ship it out, and then install the solution. The second part is the life cycle support for the units which you have installed in the customer's manufacturing setup. So traditionally, all manufacturing companies, the shop floors, are not as advanced as IT companies or the enterprise IT setup, where we are used to deliver things from remote. The whole offshore infrastructure management paradigm is how do you do remote delivery, or the whole offshoring of software development, application maintenance and support is really taught us that how do I perfect my delivery from a remote center, which could be 1,000 miles away from the actual data center or actual office, right? In the shop floor, in the manufacturing area, people believe that they should be next to the machine in order to operate the machine, or in order to fix the machine if there is a problem in the machine. We completely saw that belief crumbling down because people were forced to operate plants, critical plants like oil refinery, with very limited resource, and they had to very quickly realign themselves to the new reality that I need to provide secure remote access and I need to do whatever I can do from remote. Okay, so as an organization, fortunately, because of my background in HCL Technologies, where I used to, I did a global delivery role for remote infrastructure management. We had been toying around that how can I really, manage and monitor a factory from remote. So we could very quickly adopt to that new normal. And most of our customers really loved our approach and the agility with which we started recalibrating our services from on-site to remote. Okay, and that's one predominant factor why we think that we have come out of this crisis successfully to a certain extent. So we had zero attrition in terms of employee, we had zero attrition in terms of customer contracts, and most of our customers, the other thing which I would like to mention is that we chose our customer segments very carefully when we started our business. So we looked at industries which are a greenfield, which has got a long runway for growth. So we work with consumer product companies, renewable power energy companies, oil and gas companies. So these companies, if you see the impact of COVID in terms of industry segment, these companies are least impacted. If you look at a food and beverage company, like let's say Unilever or Hindustan Unilever, or take for example a company like ITC who are into branded foods or packaged foods, or Britannia, you see the market share and the revenue for them has grown even during the COVID time. I mean, yesterday only ITC actually published their annual results. The company has de-grown in terms of revenue, but their consumer products, the non-cigarette business, has grown substantially. So what's happened is that, perhaps the smokers really couldn't go out and buy cigarettes during lockdown. That's the reason the cigarette sale has come down. But at the same time, because the online delivery of all packaged foods, okay, we are all, today, I mean, being a classical bong, I still love to go to the wet market to buy sabji every Sunday. Okay, I still love to go to fish market. But that habit of mine has tremendously undergone a change during COVID because I had no option but to, go to Grofers or Big Basket. Right? So if I go to Grofers or Big Basket, I cannot really ask for a non-branded product. So the branded packaged food, packaged consumer products industry is really not much impacted. So coming back to, in terms of our company, I think we did three things. We maintained our communication line very strong internally and externally with both stakeholders. We recalibrated our delivery model. And something which perhaps the young guys, young freshers, or will not be able to identify with is we maintained or managed our cash flow really tight, because the worst possible impact was in terms of business was on cash flow. And companies who could manage their cash flow, they have really come out of the woods to a certain extent. Companies who couldn't manage their cash flow during COVID, they're still struggling to come out. Now, coming back to the second part of your question, which is to do with the impact on the industry. So I'll talk about core because I deal with my end customers are all from core industries. So if I look at core, the core of the core is really where metal, mining, power, coal-fired power, cement. These are the parent industries, or as we call mechanical engineering, electrical and chemical, as we call them, the parent engineering. These are the parent industries, as we call them. Now, these industries have been impacted. The reason they have been impacted is that the infrastructure project, the spending on the infrastructure project from Government of India or the institutional spend on infrastructure projects, they have taken a backseat. And we really don't know, in spite of all the bullish announcements from the government, how long they will really take to come back to the normal, pre-COVID normal spending. Okay, my rational guess is that it will take anywhere from 12 to 18 or 24 months for these companies, like SAIL or Tata Steel, or maybe an Ultratech, to really come back to their normal rhythm. It will take at least 8 to 9 quarters minimum, if not more. Okay, so that's the core. Now, alongside the core, there are a host of other ones.
Sorry, Arup, I'll have to interject a little bit because I think we are running a little bit behind time. As per plan, what we had planned was that on each of these topics, we spend 5 to 7 minutes each of you, and then we'll come back to you with the questions that we have from the that we already have from the.
So, Sharmishta, quickly summarize. I think the message I'd like to leave with the young Turks here is that the core is affected, definitely, but it is definitely not badly affected. The hiring is it's not completely frozen. The hiring is on. Maybe if there were 100 jobs for, let's say, 500 aspiring students, today those 100 jobs has shrunk to maybe 50 jobs or 30 jobs. So you will have more competition for.
Discuss the impact on the job market. So the next question is related to the impact, the changes in the hiring process. So maybe I'll ask Shotida to explain a little bit how his company is reacting to it, or what are the changes done, and what his advice for the students on how the hiring process is changing.
Okay, a bit on the context of it. This pandemic has been a great thing to happen because it unsettled everyone. And now it is, it's a level playing field. Today, I am sitting at home and everyone other is also sitting at home. And each have access to technology almost similar for that matter. Now, you have to differentiate. Now, as you heard, Arudha, the key pillars of success are 3 things. One is talent, trust, and how you reinvent the business model. These are, to my understanding, these are 3 things you have to look at it. As Arudha said, he didn't lose anyone for that matter, right? Now, if you look at talent and being more specific about the industry which I belong to, IT services, there are 4 or 5 things we need to take in mind. The ability to unlearn and learn, communication. You have to collaborate. Earlier, you were sitting in the next cubicle. You were collaborating, but now everyone is all over the world, and you need to have organization collaboration working on it. You have flattened layers of organization, so each and everyone from the topmost management to the bottommost coder, you need to have a hang of problem solving. And to this, I'd like to refer to one of my most famous icons in human history. That's Edison, Thomas Alva Edison. He didn't actually invent the incandescent bulb, but what he did was to actually invent and design something which is a filament. So you don't need to change everything, but you still can make a large impact by doing something in a different manner. And that is what, so most of us probably know that he invented the electric bulb. And opportunity will come, and there is opportunity in every good or bad thing. And again, quoting Edison, opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like a good deal of work. So, this is something which I feel that is something we should inculcate in ourselves. We have to work. We have to, dive into muddy water and still do things. Now, what do you look at, when you look at the hiring process for that matter? Now, I believe that there are three things, again, you need to look into it as you work through the hiring mechanism. One is network as much as you can. Just like what we are doing right now. The Alumni Association has helped us integrate companies with young graduates who are coming out, right, from the college. So network as much as you can. And when you go for a interview, earlier it was in-person, in-campus interviews. Now everything has gone online. So now you have to be able to articulate why they should hire you, and you should communicate to them in the best possible way. And I think it's a common problem when we were in college to what it is now. Communication is an issue. So to share my own personal experience of final year in Jadavpur, we had L&T ECC coming to college, and they organized the GD, group discussion. We were 20 of us in a long room in Jadavpur University main building. I forget the name of it. But of the 20 people, no one was talking at all. So I realized it was Ijjat of Jadavpur University. I have to start. So I started the conversation and asked everyone to speak. Unlike other situations which you might have faced, that everyone talks and nobody listens. So I made 19 people talk, and there was still one person, Arup Chakraborti. He didn't speak. So I told him, Arup, what's the matter? Why are you not saying something? And he said, I'm listening. And what is the best thing which has happened, I think, takeaway is, there were two people selected by LNTCC after the GD, and that was myself and Shukumar. So sometimes only talking is not important, but listening is also very important. And this is something, when you are in a kind of an online mode, you also need to hear what is happening. And you have to listen, not hear. And you have to look at what is your want and what is your need. So this is something which you have to take care of. And when you look into presenting in this digital era, for that matter, you might consider highlighting your experiences with the PAR model. So you will get maximum 10 minutes to speak to someone, right? And here you have to look at three things again. What is the problem? What is the action you took? And what is the result? So which is one of the PAR principles. And you have to be different from most of others in a better way, right? So you might try a video resume. That's a good thing, because it helps you to articulate well, and it's more closer to being just over the phone or otherwise. And I think being in the pandemic, we have studied less probably than others, and you have to. It is give back to the society as well. So you have to articulate what you did during the pandemic, and be truthful. And this is a great opportunity to learn something. You could learn, for example, karate as well at this point in time. But how gainfully you have helped yourself and the society around you might add to your candidature for the company. So I think these are some things which might be relevant for this group. Thank you.
Thank you, Shweta. I think that's really quite insightful, and even I have learned a few things. So I'm sure our students have also picked up a few points from here. So the next topic that we want to discuss after the impact on the job and the changes in hiring process is the skills to be honed, because we have quite a number of questions regarding that. So maybe Arnab, quickly, because we are running a little bit of time. So in 5 to 7 minutes, if you can help summarize based on some of the questions that I have shared. Hello?
Sorry, forgot to unmute myself. Am I audible now, Sharmishta?
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I think you're very correctly pointing out that I think in the post-COVID world, though I know that we are not yet seen the post-COVID world, where we are very much inside the COVID world. But in the post-COVID world, there are definitely some skills which would probably be slightly more different than what was there in the pre-COVID era. And as we look at, taking in campus joiners, as we take in people and groom them, groom them for middle management roles, skills which are becoming very, very critical. And I'll probably try and, just touch upon them. In the interest of time, I'll not go into a lot of details. But if you really think of when we come out of an engineering college, a lot of the focus is purely on the technical skills. In some cases, some amount of functional skills or domain skills, right? I think probably what we miss out is that if we look at the overall skill horizon, this is probably just about 15% to 20% of the overall skills. And let me explain to you why. I think the first big, trait that we look for in people is around leadership. Okay, in terms of how they are being able to take on leadership roles, in any kind of situation, how they are thinking. And in the current scenario, I think one of the things we are seeing is how are they looking at disruption? What are their thoughts around strategy, around resilience? Uh, can they look at a particular problem, as Shoti was saying, and look at the multi dimensions of that? Okay, so in some way, it's sort of a multi-dimensional sense-making skill set. The other thing, how does one fit into the culture? Because finally it is all institutions, right? And we are essentially all working towards building stronger institutions. So the culture and the mindset shift is very, very important. Not only in terms of identifying the culture, associating with it, but also in terms of, are you able to reframe the problem? Are you open to change? How do you look at uncertainty? How do you handle anxiety? These are all very critical skills coming out. And most of the not only the interviews but even the trainings afterwards are very much tuned towards these things. The other one is, of course, again, we are today in a very virtual world. And how do you look at network and relationships in this virtual world, right? How do you build networks? How do you nurture relationships? How do you nurture networks, both physically as well as virtually? Uh, in some way, I would say, how do you display empathy? How do you collaborate? In terms of what is your sensitivity towards, diversity? Uh, One of the key thoughts which I would probably say that you should have at this stage is being a personal credibility. Uh, you know, it is very important in everything that you do, and especially when you're starting off your career, that you need to build personal credibility, whichever way you want to do that. And then, of course, in terms of delivering a superior experience to all stakeholders, because you would go into different kinds of jobs. Every job would have multiple stakeholders, right? The stakeholders might be different for different jobs, but how do you give a superior experience to each of your stakeholders? I think that's something which is very core to working on your network and relationships. And then, of course, I think as you would be coming out of engineering, you've obviously done or gone deep into one particular technology. But I think it is now important for you to also think of digital and technology at a very broad level in terms of how do you look at data? How do you look at some of the emerging technologies like AI, analytics? How do you look at cyber security? How do you look at automation? All of these are very critical, technologies which are coming in, emerging, and I think it would make a lot of sense to have a bit of idea about many of the emerging technologies. And I talked of only probably 4. There might be another 14, which you would probably just, knowledge of different technologies is something which would really take you up. And then, of course, then comes the core piece which you have already studied for the last 4 years. So I think that's how I would look at the skills of the future. Just to summarize, There would be skills around leadership. There would be skills around culture and institution building, skills around network and relationships, skills around digital and technology, and then of course, your function, your domain, your specific field of engineering. That's of course a given. So those would be my 5 skills in a box. Coming to the question which
I think maybe
said,
Arnab, maybe we'll come back to the question with on that, because I have one question that is that has been coming up quite a lot, which I'll come back to you regarding the core, and also regarding whether people should go for higher education right now or to tide over the time. I'll come back to you over that. I want to just quickly ask Saibal on the personal branding, like how he would advise the students on how they can, how they look for jobs now that the campus recruitments are drying up. So how do they place themselves in the job market? So a little bit on that. And then I'll come back with the key questions that we have identified from the questions that are coming in to each of you. Thank you so much, Arnab. Thanks.
Yeah. Just a second. I'm just trying to share a PPT at my end. Looks like I don't have.
Okay. Present now button. Do you see the present now option?
Yes, I do see.
If you click on that, a window, a Chrome tab, or your entire screen.
Yep.
So maybe you can just pick up a window and switch to the PPT.
Can you see my screen now?
It's loading. Yes, we can see.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. I have just put my thoughts in 3 simple slides. It's not a boring, long presentation, but I thought let me at least crystallize my thoughts so that I can be more to the point. And Shormisha, please keep me honest in terms of the time I have for this.
Yeah, I will.
This is just whatever I have been thinking about, and in fact, most of it is also drawn from just last week. Right now, the business school summer placements are ongoing across the Indian business schools, and we just completed the hiring for our internship from FMS last week. So I'm fresh off a remote interview process where back to back we interviewed 8 aspiring MBA graduates, and we selected one of them. So I'm going to come from that perspective also in terms of what we looked at from an interviewer perspective. Okay, in terms of personal branding, so what these are all my thoughts based on research and whatever we have experienced. Almost all employers do background research, and this has been going on even before. Will continue to happen even going forward. This is nothing new, but because of all the digital advancements in terms of information being available, and also this COVID restricting you to step out and do any kind of physical background research, most of the research has obviously moved online, which means having, and Shotida mentioned it also, having a tailored professional online presence is important in today's day and age. It is almost an extension of who you are in the digital world. And we also have, this is all data based on the Manifest 2020 recruitment survey, which we as an organization learned from. Almost all employers consider an elevator pitch, because every interaction is now, let's say, a 30-40 minute or maybe 45-minute, 1 hour video interview. And just to have a pitch ready in terms of, okay, these are my areas of strength, and these are proven skills or proven abilities or traits or characteristic traits that I have displayed over the past. Putting a story around that, it could be from non-educational aspects also. If you have strength in, let's say, a creative area like music or arts or dance, could be something related to sports, could be something, as Shotida and the others were mentioning, could be related to something that you have done on the social side. Whatever it is, to bring that into a pitch is obviously very important, because you will be asked that question, why should we hire you compared to others? Another important fact is, the social media accounts, and this has obviously become more important as social media has penetrated our lives. You know, a lot of candidates, they use social media almost as an elimination mechanism. So if I find something objectionable about a candidate on social media, it becomes a red mark against that candidate or a negative point. Not so much a positive point, on the other hand, but a negative point. So personal branding can include, and I think Shotida also mentioned this, creating a personal portfolio website, which could also include a video resume. Promoting your personal projects that you have done, could be internships, could be unofficial internships, could be a program that you have written while you were adjusting to the COVID shutdown of the university, or a certification that you have done on Coursera. Anything that you can include or project to showcase your skill sets, your capabilities, is going to be a positive influence on the personal brand that you have. And then even if you are writing short stories, even if you are singing, and you are sharing that content out there, it doesn't need to be a technical article. It doesn't need to be a thought leadership white paper. Whatever it is, the form in which you are creating content, publishing it out there and letting it being amenable to finding is a good idea in today's day and age, because that's how you are letting everybody else know what you have been doing in these times. 5 simple.
Sorry, can I ask a quick question, Saibal? Are you, by social media, are you referring to any particular social media or like LinkedIn? Or
I am talking about everything. I'm talking about Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, even YouTube. Even YouTube. I mean, anything that where content can be shared amongst peers or networks, I consider that social media.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, 5 simple tips for people who are preparing for job interviews. Again, none of this is anything that's completely out of the blue. Make your resume stand out. Create a one-pager resume. Clearly focus on your strengths. Don't create a 2, 3, 5-page resume. Try and create a one-page resume. It also helps. Not only does it save time for the evaluator or the interviewer to understand what all you have done, it also forces you as a candidate to think what are the most important elements or aspects about my background, my career, my capabilities that I want to project out there. So that thinking exercise is also important, and that could feed into your elevator pitch. Which is that question that you'll be asked. Okay, tell me something about yourself. Now that's a half volley in cricket language that we say, half volley outside leg stump. That you'll have to capitalize on. There is no way you can let that go, because that's the only time when the person on the other side is not looking for a particular answer. It's your free swing, in which direction you want to take that conversation. Polish your social media profiles, and just an extension to that is what I have called out at the bottom, because it is important. Like I said, social media is now used as an elimination screening mechanism. So if with so much polarization going on in the world, do you subscribe to some hate speeches? Do you like some of those conspiracy theories? Those things have become important in terms of screening your profile. Images of heavy partying, any content that is illicit, poor grammar. When you are writing content, you are again, you are using your personal brand to impose an opinion or show appreciation or just start a conversation. So how you articulate, how you come across in terms of conveying your thoughts, those can also be your strengths and help you stand out, or can pull you down if it is seen in negative light. SEO your name is probably going to be a fallout of how much you do anyway on social media. Sorry.
No, that's okay. But it's a good time for me also to remind that probably I will need to remind you that we are running out of time a little bit, but it's a very interesting. So I don't want to stop you. Maybe just
Lovely
quickly help
topic,
you.
Saibal, lovely
Yes,
topic.
I don't want to stop you. So just quickly help me to cover these two slides. Yes.
So the last point, because this, and I'll share this with everybody, and I can take follow-up questions, offline after this session. But just to leave you with a few thoughts, because these are challenges that you will face, in any virtual interview or interaction going forward. Test the technology. Whether the interviewer is going to be doing the interview on Blue Jeans or on Google Duo or Google Meet, or using Adobe Connect or Zoom, whatever is the technology platform, get familiar with it beforehand if you can. That's important, so that you are not stumped by, okay, where do I go to mute, unmute myself and things like that.
Hello.
Charge it up. For example, in my scenario today, there is a power cut right now. I am still able to do everything because I have my internet plugged on to a backup. So I have internet connection and the laptop is running. Dress for success. Treat it as a in-person interview. From your head to toe, dress the way you would for an in-person interview, because when we are at home, we often get into our comfort zone, and it's easy to let your guard fall, and that's not good. You should be on your toes in every interview. Set the stage for distraction. Make sure, if you can, get into a room, let everybody know you are getting into an interview, switch off your phone, tell your roommates, parents, whoever it is, that I'm not going to be disturbed for the next 1 hour. Be well prepared. Come in a little early. Join 5 minutes early. It's better to be there when the other person comes in rather than you coming in later. Maintain eye contact, body language. Take a minute to pause after you hear the question and then start talking, because often there are latencies due to internet bandwidths and things. So if you start talking and the person on the other end is still talking, it can create a cognitive dissonance. And then at the end, close the interview by sharing your appreciation. That's very important, because everybody is now on the verge of screen fatigue. So much screen time, family, work, everything is being done through screen. So share your appreciation that you enjoyed and what your input, takeaways were. And then there are some just do's and don'ts, which are basic hygiene factors at the bottom. I don't need to explain them, but hopefully this helps with some perspective.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Saibal. I think that was. I have taken a few pointers for myself. I'm sure it has been a very good learning experience for the students as well. So I think, in the interest of time, what I'll do now is, I'll just go around and pick up one of the pertinent questions from all the sections that I believe we have not covered, and would also take that as maybe a final word from our eminent panelists before we close for today. And whatever we cannot cover today, then definitely, as I said, we will try to come back with clarifications from our panelists and share over email. So starting, I'll just go around. I'll follow any order. Maybe with Arnab, there was one of the things that I wanted to have, and we need to really be mindful of the time. So probably just 5 minutes from each of you. One of the key questions that we had received was the students are wondering, at this time, because the campus job recruitments are drying up, is it a good idea for them to pursue higher studies like maybe masters or their MBA to tide over this time, and then probably, so that, because we know that it's just a transient phase. So what's your thought on that?
So my thought on that would be that higher education is a good idea at any point of time. For pandemic or no pandemic, I think I would probably say that higher education, if you have the chance or the inclination to pursue that, please go ahead and do it, because it will only help you in life. In terms of pandemic, I think with the kind of I would say perspective on technology that is coming out, and who are technocrats in some way or the other, you would find that digital transformation is probably the biggest thing which clients and organizations across the world are investing on. So probably as an engineer, you don't really have much to worry in terms of, the job market and all that. It's people are recruiting, large IT organizations are recruiting, most of the core industries are recruiting. They might be a bit slow to come to your campus, but they will come for sure. So don't worry about the job, but if you are really inclined for higher education, please go for it. I did the same myself. I didn't take the job which I got from campus. I went for higher education, and I think it was a good decision when I look at myself. And again, it's an individualistic thing that whether you want to work for a few years and then go for higher education, depending on what kind of higher education you're thinking of. But if you have the inclination, please go for it.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Arnab. Maybe for the next question, I'll ask Arupta, because there has been a lot of questions like for the core, especially those who are looking for core jobs. So what would be your advice for them, how to prepare, like whether they should actually start, like what Arnab mentioned, like for the education perspective also, should they invest in higher education related to IT or digital transformation, or they should still look for prepare for jobs in their own industry? Would look for some advice there from you?
I think I would go with Arnab that higher education is always a good thing, but don't go for higher education because you're not getting a job. I mean, should not be the motivation for going for higher education. If you really want to pursue higher studies, either MBA or MTech or some of the specialization on the digital side, decide your goal and plan backwards from there. Okay. Many a times, because you've already graduated, invested 4 precious years of your life in the engineering education, the next 2 years or 3 years has to be really thought through well, that what is it that this particular educational stint is going to get me to. Okay, so think about that goal and then take the decision, number one. Number two is that, as again Arnab said, the core industry is not stopped hiring completely. They are hiring, okay? It's just that the quantum of hiring has shrunk and is going to come back to normal. So you need to prepare yourself. I would completely go by the recommendations tabled by Saibal. Excellent recommendation in terms of how do you, present yourself in the digital world. Because in the near seeable future, interviews are going to be in the virtual world, in the virtual mode, not in a physical presence mode. And the other thing is that network as much as you can in the core industry circle. Okay, leverage your alumni association. I'll be very enthused to see that like Shagushriti, if Jadavpur University can bring up a technology fest where you can bring in a lot of industry, academia, collaborative exercise and create a branding for yourself, the third year students especially, okay? The third year students should also go for or the final year students and third year students in collaboration should go for a recruitment outreach as much as possible. So my take is that higher education, always good, but think through before you take that leap of faith. Otherwise, if you are going for a job, gunning for a job, then go by all the good recommendations which have come in today's discussion, and make sure in a core job, like leadership skills, cultural skills, alongside that, your core technology strength is going to be tested. So because you're passing out from Jadavpur, I would tend to believe that you'll score at least 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10, which will be a qualifier for the HR round. But don't neglect that. Please make sure that you're coming well prepared on the technology side as well, because soft skill alone will not be able to take you, or land you the job. All right.
Sure. Thank you so much. So for Shotita, one of the questions that I think would be the listeners would like to know more about is like, there was one question like, how can we bring financial consultancy IB firms to come to JU for placements? I think they're also looking for some advice here, if there could be something that they could do to get more of these firms to come, because I think that right now the campus is drying up. It's not enough for everyone.
So that we can hear you.
Yeah. So I think companies will come when they find the talent in JU to be aligned with the needs. So you just can't have a NBFC come just directly for financial skill sets, but maybe on the IT side, you can definitely expect them to come. And I think, as Arup said, Arnab also said, that we need to work closer with the network which we have and enhance it further. And it has to be consciously done. I don't know if it is being consciously done, but I can name a large company, IT company. When I spoke to them about Jadavpur University, they said Jadavpur University does not keep us on the top of the list, and it's a well-known company. So we go to Techno India. That was the comment that my colleague said. So I think there has to be a conscious attempt by Jadavpur University, and I'm happy to help as an alumni to attract more companies to come to Jadavpur University. So I think the rest of the panelists and also you who have organized the event would chip in. So I think it has to be worked out. It will not happen just like that.
Sure. Yeah. I think with that, we will have to decide to close this discussion for today, though I have a lot of other questions which also we would ideally want to go over individually. But I think overall we have been able to cover the broad spectrum into which we had divided this discussion into. That is the changes, the impact on the job market, the changes in the hiring process, the skills to be honed, and the personal branding, how we can prepare ourselves for the changes that are emerging in this new normal situation. It has been a very, very insightful evening for me. Hopefully for the students as well. And thank you once again to all the panelists for taking out time for this and all the organizers. But Conor, I think I would like you to say a few words. Yes.
Yeah. So thanks, Mr. for the excellent coordination, and thanks to all the panelists. I'll hand over to our Vice President Saurabh to kind of conclude. But before that, I just found an interesting question to end in a lighter note in the posted in the chat, and the question is to Arnab. Arnab, the question is like, how do you refresh yourselves? At any point of time, do you feel burnout? And what do you actually do to have a sustained excellence in the industry, being such a leadership position for such a long time? So maybe just a lighter question to end with.
No, I think let me keep it as a light question. I do read a lot. But mostly I read fiction. But I can also tell you that every one of them have their users. So when I look at my, it was probably a 45-minute interview, but 30 minutes of it was only on PG Woodhouse. So sometimes you land up with an interviewer who is also a voracious reader, and who just wants to discuss with you on your interest area, right? So I was not asked about finance or technology. I was asked about how many aunts Bertie Wooster had, and to name them, right? So that was the start of the interview. So on a lighter note, just keep reading whatever you want to, and you would probably find that refreshes you.
Thank you. And with that, probably come to the close of the question and answer session, and we will definitely draft the answers with the input of all the panelists and send to use eCell, and they can circulate. Somala can circulate to all the joinees over here. So over to Saurabh for the concluding remarks.
Thanks, Conor. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, especially the students who have joined in such big numbers. I mean, the success of the event is based on your participation. Thanks for the questions. It does show your excitement, interest, and the variety of questions really enriched the discussion, I would think. Thank you, Professor Sayan Chatterjee, Professor Chiranjeev Bhattacharya from Jadavpur. A few people who worked behind the scenes, Dr. Shugotam Ghosh, Production 2000, Mr. Kishala Raichaudhuri, MCA 1993, all part of the JUAS community in Singapore. Thank you, the panelists, Arupda, Shotida, Arnab, Shoibal, and Sharmishta for moderating this. It's pretty well done. Conor, Shubro, of course, from the committee, we all thank you again. And all of the management committee members led by Amita. So this Give Back to JU initiative, well, it was conceived to help students bridge the gap between the academia in the industry and the industry, and kind of bring more of readiness. These kind of initiatives never existed when we were graduating. So I would think this is something that the students should fully utilize and maximize. We have a few other initiatives that we're working on, and hopefully it should be a reality in the next few months to come. This particular initiative, Excel at the rate AUR, which is the Alumni University Relationship, we did event August 1st, a quick peek into the world of AI. Again, it was received well, and it was a very, very well received discussion. We have a few other initiatives as well. A couple of weeks down the line, on November 21st, we are looking at a fireside chat. So the details will be out soon, and we would hope to see good participation from there. It's a slightly different topic, and it's very interesting, and it kind of hinges around a very interesting continent called Africa. So that could be interesting. Any of the alumni want to join, please feel free. It could be good insight in terms of the unknown world for a lot of us. Again, we are also working on other couple of initiatives, like a mentorship program to structure it, and also finishing school. So all these to kind of help students maximize their readiness from an industry perspective. So stay tuned on, and once again, I would like to just end the discussion with a huge thanks to the panelists and the moderator and the students and everybody involved. Thank you very much. We look forward to interact more. Though it's being spearheaded by Singapore, but it's something for the students by the alumni, and doesn't really matter where you are. It's just somebody who raises the hand and comes forward in taking the initiative to bring this alive. So we look forward to interact more with you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, and do reach out to us with the email ID shared with Isel. So do reach out to us if you have any questions through the email. Thanks all for joining.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Arnab.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
এটা বন্ধ করবো কি করে?